The Great Deception. Captain Elena Vasquez stared at the navigation display of her merchant vessel, the Wanderer's Hope, with growing confusion. According to every star chart she possessed, this region of space should have been empty. The void sectors were notorious for being barren, dangerous, and completely uninhabitable. Yet her sensors were detecting massive energy signatures that suggested otherwise. Elena had been trading along the outer rim for 15 years, following in her grandfather's footsteps. He had been one of the last humans to see Earth before the Great Exile 80 years ago. The Galactic Assembly had deemed humanity too aggressive, too unpredictable for civilized space. Every human settlement, every colony, every trace of human presence had been systematically removed from Assembly territory. Her grandfather used to tell stories about the old days, when humans had walked among the stars as equals. Elena had always assumed they were just stories, tales of a golden age that existed only in the memories of the elderly. Most humans now lived as traders, salvagers, and outcasts on the very edges of known space, barely scraping by and certainly not thriving. But the readings on her screen suggested something impossible. The communication system crackled to life, startling Elena from her thoughts. A voice spoke in perfect English, calm and professional. Merchant vessel Wanderer's Hope. This is Traffic Control Station Alpha. Please state your business in the Haven sector. Elena's hands froze over the controls. Traffic Control Station Alpha. She had never heard of any such station, and her charts showed nothing but empty space in this direction. More importantly, how did they know her ship's name? She activated her transmitter with trembling fingers. Traffic Control, this is Captain Elena Vasquez. I'm not sure I understand. My charts show this area as uninhabited space. There was a pause, then a different voice came through the speakers. This one was warmer, more personal. Captain Vasquez, this is Admiral Marcus Chen. Your charts are exactly what we intended them to show. We've been waiting for you. Elena's breath caught in her throat. Admiral. What kind of admiral operated in empty space? And how could they have been waiting for her when she had chosen this route randomly, following a rumor about salvage opportunities? Before she could respond, her viewport began to shimmer. The empty space in front of her dissolved like a mirage, revealing the most incredible sight she had ever witnessed. Massive space stations stretched as far as her sensors could detect. Ships moved in organized patterns between industrial platforms. Agricultural domes rotated slowly, catching light from carefully positioned artificial suns. It was a civilization, a thriving, advanced civilization hidden in the void. And every ship, every station, every structure bore the distinctive blue and silver markings that Elena recognized from her grandfather's stories. Human markings. A sleek escort vessel appeared alongside her ship, its hull gleaming with technology that looked decades ahead of anything Elena had seen in assembly space. The pilot's voice was young and excited. Captain Vasquez, please follow me to Docking Station 7. Admiral Chen is waiting to meet you personally. As Elena's ship was guided through the hidden fleet, she began to understand the magnitude of what she was seeing. This wasn't just a secret colony or a hidden outpost. This was an empire, ships by the thousands, stations that could house millions, industrial capacity that rivaled anything the assembly possessed. All of it human, all of it invisible to the outside galaxy. Docking Station 7 was larger than most planets Elena had visited. As her ship settled into its assigned berth, she could see through the massive transparent walls that the station extended deep into space, with multiple levels and sections branching out like a vast tree. People moved through the corridors with purpose and confidence, their faces showing none of the worn desperation that Elena was used to seeing among the scattered human communities of the Outer Rim. Admiral Marcus Chen was waiting for her at the airlock, and Elena was surprised by his appearance. She had expected someone old and weathered, marked by decades of exile and hardship. Instead, Chen appeared to be in his 50s, with sharp eyes and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. His uniform was impeccable, bearing insignia that Elena didn't recognize, but which clearly indicated high rank. "Captain Vasquez," Chen said, extending his hand in greeting. "Welcome to Haven Prime. I apologize for the deception, but security has been our highest priority for 80 years. Elena shook his hand, still trying to process what she was seeing. "Admiral, I don't understand. How is any of this possible? The assembly drove us out. We're scattered, barely surviving on the rim worlds." Chen smiled, but there was something enigmatic about his expression. "That's exactly what we wanted them to think. Come with me, Captain. There's a great deal you need to see." As they walked through the station's corridors, Chen began to explain. "When the assembly exiled us, they made several assumptions. They assumed we would fragment and fight among ourselves. They assumed we would gradually die out, reduced to irrelevance. Most importantly, they assumed we would simply disappear." They entered a massive observation deck that looked out over the hidden fleet. Elena gasped as she realized the true scale of what lay before her. Hundreds of capital ships hung in formation, their designs clearly human but incorporating technology that seemed impossibly advanced. Industrial platforms the size of moons processed raw materials with efficiency that defied belief. "We did disappear," Chen continued, "but not in the way they expected. Instead of fragmenting, we unified under a single purpose. Instead of dying out, we grew stronger. And instead of simply hiding, we began to plan." Dr. Sarah Kim joined them on the observation deck, her white coat marking her as one of the station's senior scientists. She was younger than Chen, perhaps in her 40s, with the intense focus of someone dedicated to pushing the boundaries of knowledge. "Captain Vasquez," Dr. Kim said, "what you're seeing here represents 80 years of human ingenuity unleashed from the constraints of assembly oversight. When they exiled us, they also freed us from their restrictions on research and development." Helena looked between the two officers, beginning to understand the implications. "You've been advancing while hidden from view." "More than advancing," Chen replied. "We've been revolutionizing. Fusion technology that's 3 generations ahead of assembly standards. Stealth systems that make our ships invisible to their sensors. Manufacturing techniques that allow us to build in months what takes them years." Commander Alex Rodriguez approached their group, his tactical uniform suggesting a military background. He was Elena's age, with the confident bearing of someone who had spent years preparing for conflict. "Admiral, the latest intelligence reports are ready for your review." Chen nodded to Rodriguez, then turned back to Elena. "Captain, what I'm about to show you will change everything you thought you knew about humanity's place in the galaxy." They moved to a secure briefing room, where holographic displays showed star maps of assembly space. But these weren't the standard charts that Elena knew. These maps showed detailed information about assembly military positions, economic centers, and political structures. The level of detail was incredible, suggesting an intelligence network that penetrated to the highest levels of assembly government. "For 80 years, Shen explained, we haven't just been hiding and building. We've been watching, learning, and positioning ourselves. We have operatives throughout assembly space, traders, mechanics, service workers, even some government officials. All human, all working toward the same goal." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "What goal?" Chen activated another display, this one showing economic data from across assembly space. "The assembly is failing, Captain. Their member species are losing faith in the central government. Economic inequality is rising. Several worlds are already talking about secession." Dr. Kim stepped forward to elaborate. "Our analysis shows that the assembly is weaker now than at any point in its history. They've grown complacent, convinced of their own superiority. Meanwhile, we've been building not just military strength, but economic and technological advantages that they can't match." Commander Rodriguez added his perspective. "Our operatives report increasing dissatisfaction among assembly worlds. They're looking for alternatives, for someone who can offer them better trade deals, better technology, better security." Elena began to see the larger picture. "You're not planning to attack them." You're planning to replace them. Chen smiled, and this time it was genuinely warm. Captain, violence was never the human way, despite what the Assembly claimed when they exiled us. We prefer a more elegant solution. The Admiral activated a final display, showing a timeline that stretched into the near future. In 6 months, we will reveal ourselves to the galaxy, not as the scattered refugees they remember, but as the most advanced civilization in known space. We will offer membership in a new kind of galactic community, one based on cooperation rather than domination. Elena studied the timeline, noting key dates and milestones. And if they refuse? Dr. Kim answered quietly, they won't be able to refuse. Our technology is so far ahead of theirs that their military is obsolete. Our economic network is so extensive that we already control 30% of inter-system trade. Our intelligence network means we know their plans before they make them. Commander Rodriguez leaned forward. Captain, we estimate that within 5 years, every major assembly world will have voluntarily joined our confederation. Not through conquest, but through simple economic and technological necessity. Chen stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the hidden fleet. 80 years ago, the Assembly thought they were solving a problem by getting rid of us. Instead, they created their own replacement. We've spent 8 decades becoming everything they wished they could be. Elena felt the weight of revelation settling on her shoulders. Everything she had known about humanity's place in the galaxy was wrong. They weren't the scattered, defeated remnants of a failed species. They were the architects of a new galactic order, patient and methodical in their approach to reclaiming their rightful place among the stars. What happens to people like me? Elena asked. The humans who've been living on the rim, unaware of all this. Chen turned back to her with a reassuring expression. You become part of something greater, Captain. Your trading routes, your contacts, your knowledge of rim space, all of it will be valuable in the new order. We've been waiting 80 years to welcome our scattered family home. As Elena looked out at the vast hidden empire that humanity had built in secret, she realized that the exile hadn't been an ending at all. It had been a beginning, a chance for humanity to grow beyond what they had ever been while under assembly rule. The question now wasn't whether humans could reclaim their place in the galaxy, but whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity had become. Part 2. The Quiet Revolution. 6 months later, Elena Vasquez stood in the communications center of Haven Prime, watching as the most ambitious plan in human history began to unfold. Around her, dozens of technicians monitored displays showing assembly space in real time. Today was the day that humanity would announce their return to the galactic stage, and Elena had been given the honor of witnessing history in the making. Admiral Chen stood at the center of the activity, his calm demeanor unchanged despite the magnitude of what was about to happen. Status report from all sectors, he called out. Commander Rodriguez consulted his tactical display. All Ghost Protocol agents are in position. Admiral, Phase 1 operatives have confirmed readiness across 47 systems. Dr. Kim looked up from her scientific monitoring station. Stealth barriers are holding perfectly. Assembly sensors still show the void sectors as empty space. They have no idea we exist. Elena had spent the past 6 months learning about the true scope of humanity's hidden empire. The Ghost Protocol, as they called it, was the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history. For 8 decades, humans had been quietly infiltrating every level of assembly society, always maintaining their cover while gathering information and establishing influence. Ambassador David Thompson appeared on the main communication screen, his image transmitted from the assembly capital world of Centauri Prime. To anyone watching, he appeared to be just another mid-level diplomatic aide from a minor rim world. In reality, he was one of humanity's most skilled operatives, positioned at the heart of assembly government. Admiral, Thompson reported, Assembly Council is in emergency session. They're discussing the economic crisis on Velon Prime and the trade disputes in the Kepler sector. Perfect timing for our revelation. Chen nodded approvingly. Excellent work, David. Are our people ready in the assembly chambers? 17 of our operatives are present as various diplomatic staff and observers. When you give the signal, we'll be able to control the narrative from inside their own government. Elena marveled at the complexity of the operation. Over the past months, she had learned that humans now occupied key positions throughout assembly space. They were starship captains, trade negotiators, technological advisors, and even some planetary governors. All of them had been carefully positioned over decades, waiting for this moment. President Lisa Park, humanity's elected leader, joined Chen at the command center. She was a woman in her 60s who had spent her entire career preparing for this day. Unlike the old human governments that the assembly remembered, the silent empire was truly democratic, with representatives elected from across their hidden territories. Citizens across our space are watching, President Park reported. Morale is high, but there's understandable nervousness about revealing ourselves after so long in hiding. Dr. Kim activated a holographic display showing the current state of assembly space. Ma'am, our economic analysis shows perfect conditions for the transition. Assembly currency is unstable. Several member worlds are considering secession, and their technology base has stagnated. We're offering them solutions they desperately need. Elena watched as the display showed trade routes, resource flows, and economic data from across the galaxy. What she saw was stunning. Humans already controlled nearly 60% of inter-system commerce, but they had done it so gradually and carefully that no one had noticed. Companies with human names had become trusted partners throughout assembly space, their true ownership hidden behind layers of corporate structure. Commander Rodriguez received an urgent communication from one of their deep cover operatives. Admiral, we have movement in the assembly fleet. General Zaroth is mobilizing 3 battle groups, apparently in response to rumors about unauthorized activity in the void sectors. Chen smiled calmly. Perfect. Let them come. Dr. Kim, are our demonstration platforms ready? All systems are standing by, Admiral. Our newest ships are prepared to decloak on your command. Elena understood now why Chen seemed so confident. The military technology that humanity had developed during their exile wasn't just advanced, it was revolutionary. Their ships could appear and disappear at will, their weapons could disable enemy vessels without destroying them, and their defensive systems were impenetrable by assembly standards. The main display showed General Zaroth's fleet approaching the edge of the void sectors. Zaroth was a respected military leader from the Drakmir species, known for her tactical brilliance and unwavering loyalty to the assembly. She commanded some of their most advanced warships, representing the pinnacle of non-human military technology. General Zaroth is hailing us, Rodriguez reported. She's demanding identification and surrender. President Park stepped forward. Open a channel, Commander. It's time. The view screen activated, showing General Zaroth on the bridge of her flagship. Her reptilian features were set in a stern expression, but Elena could see uncertainty in her large golden eyes. Behind her, assembly officers worked frantically at their stations, clearly dealing with sensor readings they couldn't understand. Unknown vessels, Zaroth declared. You are trespassing in restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately or face the consequences. President Park moved into view of the camera, wearing the formal robes of her office. General Zaroth, I am President Lisa Park of the Human Confederation. We meet again under very different circumstances. The alien general's eyes widened in shock. Impossible. Humans were exiled 80 years ago. Your species was scattered and broken. That, Park replied with a gentle smile, was precisely what we wanted you to believe. Chen activated the revelation protocol. Across the void sectors, stealth barriers began to drop. Massive space stations became visible, industrial platforms revealed themselves, and hundreds of advanced human warships decloaked in perfect formation. The empty space that General Zaroth had been approaching was suddenly revealed to contain one of the most impressive fleets ever assembled. On her flagship's bridge, assembly officers shouted in alarm as their sensors were overwhelmed with new contacts. Zaroth stared at the tactical display in disbelief. How is this possible? Admiral Chen appeared beside President Park on the communication screen. General, for 80 years, your people believed you had solved the human problem by exiling us. Instead, you gave us the greatest gift possible, the freedom to become what we were always meant to be. Dr. Kim activated another display, this one showing assembly space with human-controlled assets highlighted. Trading companies, manufacturing facilities, transport networks, and even some military contractors were revealed to be under human ownership or influence. We haven't been hiding, General, Dr. Kim explained. We've been working, building, growing. The fuel that powers your ships, refined in human facilities. The components in your computers, manufactured in human orbital factories. The food that feeds your colonies, grown on human agricultural platforms. General Zarath looked at her tactical officer, who confirmed the impossible readings with a grim nod. General, we count over 800 human vessels in this sector alone, all of them using technology we've never seen before. Ambassador Thompson appeared on a secondary screen, broadcasting from the assembly chambers on Centauri Prime. General, President Park, I have news from the capital. Council Prime Veltar has called an emergency session. They're aware that something unprecedented is happening. President Park nodded. David, it's time to complete the revelation. Signal our people throughout assembly space. Elena watched in fascination as the most carefully orchestrated plan in galactic history reached its climax. Across hundreds of worlds, humans who had been living in disguise for decades began revealing their true identities. Company executives, trade officials, even some planetary administrators announced that they were human agents and that their true loyalty lay with the Human Confederation. The economic impact was immediate and profound. Supply chains that the assembly had relied on for decades were revealed to be under human control. Trade agreements that had seemed favorable to assembly worlds were shown to be part of a larger human economic strategy. Within hours, it became clear that the assembly's economy had become dependent on human infrastructure. Council Prime Veltar appeared on the emergency communication channel, his crystalline features reflecting the panic in the assembly chambers. Veltar was ancient even by his species' standards, having served as Council Prime for over 2 centuries. He had been one of the original architects of humanity's exile. This is impossible, Veltar declared, his translated voice carrying overtones of fear and anger. Humans lack the capability for such deception. Your species is too direct, too emotional for long-term planning. President Park smiled sadly. Veltar, that was always your mistake. You judged us by your own limitations, not our potential. When you exiled us, you didn't eliminate a threat. You created an opportunity. General Zarath, still trying to process the tactical situation, spoke up. President Park, what are your intentions? Are you here to conquer assembly space? Quite the opposite, Park replied. We're here to offer membership in something better. The Human Confederation isn't built on the domination model that the Assembly uses. We believe in cooperation between equals. Admiral Chen activated a holographic display visible to both the General's fleet and the Assembly chambers. It showed a new star map, one where human and non-human worlds were integrated into a single cooperative network. General, every world that joins the Confederation retains its autonomy, Chen explained. We don't demand tribute or obedience. We offer partnership, better technology, more efficient trade, stronger security, all based on mutual benefit rather than hierarchical control. Dr. Kim provided supporting data. Our economic models show that Confederation membership would increase prosperity for member worlds by an average of 40% within 5 years. Our defensive agreements would provide better security with lower military spending. Elena realized that this wasn't a conquest at all. It was a job interview. Humanity was demonstrating their capabilities and offering employment to a galaxy that had fired them 80 years ago. Council Prime Veltar's communication became increasingly desperate. You cannot simply appear and expect to replace an order that has maintained galactic peace for millennia. President Park's expression became more serious. Veltar, your order has been failing for decades. Member worlds are unhappy, economies are stagnating, and your own military can't maintain security without constant conflict. We're not here to destroy what you've built. We're here to offer something better. General Zarath studied the tactical displays showing human capabilities. Her military mind could clearly see that resistance would be futile, but Elena could also see something else in her expression. Curiosity about what humanity was offering. President Park, the general said slowly, assuming we were to consider your proposal, what guarantees do you offer? How do we know this isn't simply a more sophisticated form of conquest? An excellent question, Park replied. David, please activate the transparency protocol. Ambassador Thompson, still broadcasting from the assembly chambers, began displaying detailed information about human government structure, economic policies, and military doctrine. Everything was open for inspection, from their democratic processes to their defensive-only military philosophy. Unlike the Assembly's hierarchical structure, Thompson explained, the Confederation operates on principles of shared governance. Every member world has representation proportional to their population. No single species or world can dominate the others. Commander Rodriguez provided military specifics. Our defensive doctrine focuses on protection and deterrence, not conquest. We maintain sufficient force to protect our members, but we don't build weapons designed for planetary bombardment or civilian targets. Elena watched as the reality of humanity's return began to settle across assembly space. This wasn't the desperate refugee species that had been exiled 8 decades ago. This was something new, a civilization that had used their exile to grow beyond what they had ever been before. Over the following days, the transformation accelerated. Assembly worlds began requesting information about Confederation membership. The economic advantages were too obvious to ignore, and the human track record of treating partners fairly had been established through decades of business relationships. General Zarath became one of the first non-human officials to visit Haven Prime, where she was amazed by the scale and sophistication of human civilization. Council Prime Veltar, facing the collapse of his political coalition, agreed to negotiations for a peaceful transition of authority. Elena stood once again in the observation deck of Haven Prime, watching as ships from dozens of species arrived to begin the process of joining the human confederation. The exile that was supposed to have ended humanity had instead given birth to something unprecedented, a truly cooperative galactic civilization. Admiral Chen joined her at the viewport. 80 years ago, Captain, the Assembly thought they were getting rid of a problem. Instead, they gave humanity the time and space we needed to become the solution to problems they didn't even know they had. Elena nodded, thinking about her grandfather's stories of the old days. He always said that humans were at their best when they had something to prove. Well, Chen replied with a smile, I'd say we proved it. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in centuries, it would be better.